And the thought today is around what can the final crisis sometimes, sorry about that, what can the final crisis sometimes look like? Because as we mentioned yesterday, when we look at the Bible, there's these references to 3 days and they're consistent. And what we think that might picture, what we're asking is that picturing is sort of the completion of something where in a miraculous and heartbreaking way, both at the same time, the end of something becomes the beginning of something else. So a chapter comes to a close, and that can be very sad, very difficult, very challenging. And at the same time, there's something else. We may not even, I don't think we necessarily even do see it for a while, but something else is being born at the same time. So the idea of endings and beginnings really coming right up against each other. That's what we've been talking about. And today what I want to talk about is the idea, friends, of what is the final crisis? What might it be? And it was the sermon I heard decades ago, probably close to 35, 40 years ago now. But it was one of those life-changing sermons, and it was a sermon done by a reverend out in Western Pennsylvania, Reverend Ragnar Boyson, and he was talking about sort of the last battle of Jesus's last battle, the last temptation on the cross, and there's all kinds of beautiful things where we can look at that. And we can go, all right, so that was Jesus's life at a much grander level, much bigger, much more significant level than ours. That's for sure. But there are echoes where we can go like, oh yeah, that we sort of walk parts of that journey as well. And one of the ideas is that the last crisis, the very final crisis, is hopelessness. And boy, do I find that so powerful. So in our life, we go through events that are deeply tragic, that sometimes signal an end to something. Our health goes, or our marriage ends, or just our job ends, or we get laid off, or any number of different things, or a child is estranged, whatever it might be. But that's that deep ending. And there's the event itself, and the event itself is deeply traumatic. There's no doubt about it. And sometimes I think probably the bigger crisis comes a little bit later when we sit with it for a little bit. And then this hopelessness really starts to take hold. So we've moved from kind of the shock into just this malaise of hopelessness, just feeling like life is hopeless, nothing good is ever going to happen, et cetera, et cetera. And with hopelessness, friends, I think there's a couple of things I want to share here. I think that feeling of hopelessness is going to be inevitable. And it's kind of like you want to be so careful not jumping too quickly into hope. I mean, one of the ones I hear about, as a pastor, and it happens, and it's not that it's all that bad, but it's just as an example of it. Where someone might lose a child with a miscarriage, and someone immediately says, well, you can have more children. And that's true. And there may be a time and a place to hear that. But boy, we have to be careful with that, right? Because if somebody's sitting in hopelessness, how's that going to land? It's probably not going to land the way we might like it to land. So we got to be careful with that. And the trick is, friends, is to understand that with life, we're supposed to be thinking it, supposed to be holding it maybe this way, that we're going to feel hopelessness. Like we will feel hopelessness. We will feel that, and we will feel it for an extended period of time. It'll probably be cyclical, where we may be living in that space for an extended period, and then we start becoming just tourists, just visiting it on occasion. I think it's probably the most likely scenario people do. But the trick is not to live in it. So we live with it, we don't live in it. Because when you really get into the habit of living in hopelessness, when that becomes our full story, there's no possible way forward. I mean, I just think about our lives. Like, when did hopelessness ever solve a problem or move somebody forward or create more love in a situation? Like, hopelessness just doesn't do it. It moves away from love. It moves away from solutions. It moves away from reconciliation. It moves away from all those things and gets us increasingly isolated. So we're going to have to feel it. That's true. And we're going to probably have to feel it for longer than we'd like. True. And at the same time, with that, we can't live in that place. We can't constantly be coming from that and make that our life story. That's no good. And Ragnar's sermon was about that was the Lord's last temptations was angels who felt totally hopeless, that the human race could never, ever be saved. And notice that word never, like that's the real essence of hopeless. And we have to sort of fight that. Now, how do we fight it? Well, again, we don't fight it with a Pollyannish, like, oh, it'll all be fine, let's just move right along, nothing to see here. Because that's not our experience. And we don't even get to control. I think a lot of the time hopelessness can just take us over, and it will take us over for a while. So what is it that we can do? Let's go back to the Easter story. It's interesting, right? The Easter story over 3 days, which was death, which was Friday, waiting, which was Saturday, resurrection, which was Sunday. And this one here, this waiting, and we don't talk about it much, but I think that is a key part of moving forward in a time of hopelessness, is we just learn to wait. We just learn to be patient. We just learn that we're not here to solve this thing in the next 5 minutes. That's not how it's going to work. We do what we can do in the day, and we have to learn to just be very comfortable with waiting. I find it powerful, from the 12-step tradition, the idea that when we really get confused about what to do, just ask yourself, what's the next right thing? Think, oh, that's so powerful, right? And the next right thing, and just think how small you can make it. It's not about, if you're watching this, you're in a hopeless place. It's not about thinking of the big grand gesture that's going to shift everything, and the sun's going to rise, and the birds are going to sing. No, it's how do we do the next right thing? And Mother Teresa, we can do no great things. All we can do is small things with great love. The next right thing, combined with we can do no great things, just combined with doing a small thing with great love. All we can do is a small thing with great love. Just figure out that small thing that you can do with great love. And that's maybe the best we can do on any given day. And even on days that aren't feeling hopeless, not a bad piece of advice. Next right thing, you can do no great things. All you can do is small things, little things with great love. Figure out those little things with great love and do that. I think that's the way, friends, that hopelessness starts to shift. And it's sort of a dawning that takes place. It's just this realization that God is here too. Again, if hopelessness, Jesus clearly walked through a time of hopelessness. We will all do that journey as well, on a very different level, not on a cosmic level, but on a very personal level. We'll have to walk through that. We'll have friends who have to walk through that. And the trick is, again and again, just remembering we're here to walk through it together as best we can. And it's not trying to, if you have a loved one who's struggling with it, it's not about grabbing them and saying, thou shalt be hopeful. It's about, where does it look for you? What's the next right thing to do with them today? What's the little small act of love that you can do that's not trying to tell them they're bad and wrong for feeling hopeless, but maybe acknowledges it and then just figures out a little tiny bit of balm, a little balm for the soul, coffee, breakfast, a note, a text message, whatever it might be. So that's the thought for today, friends. What is the final crisis? The final crisis is hopelessness. And how do we handle that? We just become patient, and we learn to wait for the Lord's time as we move our way out of it. And for those of us who are doers, just remember, it's always just a small act, smallest act we can. What's the next right thing? Live into that small act as best you can today and this weekend. So I hope that makes sense, dear friends. And what we're going to do now we're going to shift gears. When we shift gears at New Church Live, we come into a very gentle sort of landing here with a little prayer, a little meditation, little blessing, and then we say hi to folks on Facebook. So with that, dear friends, let's get a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say hi to folks on social media. And again, as you get ready for your wonderful weekend ahead, even if you're watching this late, which a lot of people do, we always do love to hear from our friends from all over the globe. And so feel free to leave a comment because, again, always wonderful to hear from you folks. And and to hear how life is a plugin. All right. Marcus, good morning to you. Great to see you joining us this morning. And now let's flip on over here. Oh, there we go. Flip on over. All righty. There we go. All right. Linda, the next right thing, such good advice, right, Linda? It's always like, isn't it funny? Like the next right thing, it just is so spot on. Like, I mean, I remember hearing that for the first time and it was like the clouds part. It was like, oh yeah, that's all I need to do is the next right thing. Just that simple because it gets us into the moment. Martha, good morning to you. I hope you're doing well. Sherry, have a peaceful weekend. Same to you as well. We had a good time. My wife and I have a good time planning. We're going out shortly with that wonderful son of yours. Linda, good morning to you. I hope you're doing well, my friend. So for everyone, I'll be